Hello and welcome to what's going to be a really exciting show that we're going to be bringing to you for the next 8 weeks or so. This is one of the largest opinion polls that's ever been done to judge the mood of the young. What do they want? What do they think of? What are their passions? What do they dislike? What do they hate? And also, by the way, are they interested in politics? Are they going to be voting in the next general election? And if they're not, what can be done to make them vote? And in every episode, we're going to be here with a bunch of young people. I have to say I'm going to be the oldest thing about this program. I'm sorry, can't be helped. That's just the way it is. But we're going to be talking to a group of people out here, and we have some very special guests whom I'm going to be introducing for you in just a couple of minutes. But before I actually start with the formal questions, how many of you are actually interested in politics? Because that's our first theme. Some of you are not looking interested in politics. Why aren't you interested in politics?
3 of us are journalism students, so we're interested in politics as such, but we don't want to make a career out of it.
Not,
Okay. So we'll find out why you actually feel that on politics. What do the young really think about politics, and are they going to be voting or not? And let me now welcome some of the special guests we're going to have with us today. We have with us sitting right here Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, who's the national spokesperson of the BJP, and Ashok Tanwar, who's the Lok Sabha MP of the Congress Party. Sitting out there, wave your arms in the air, Shazia Ilmi, who's actually, this is going to be the first election you're going to be taking part in, right?
True.
And before that, I was joking about you wanting to be the youngest Home Minister of Delhi, or is it the Finance Minister or something else?
Yeah, I'll say Inshallah.
Okay, so Shazia is there from the Aam Aadmi Party, and sitting with her, Jayant Chaudhary, Lok Sabha MP of the RLD. Thanks a lot, Jayant, for being with us. Your dad was, I think, one of the first politicians I ever interviewed in my career, so it's great to have you.
Long time ago.
Long time ago. That's a time when both of us were young, so not anymore. And Ashish Khaitan with us out there, editor of Gulel.com. Ashish, thank you so much. He's the guy who does all the investigative stories you keep reading, so put your hands together for him as well. And RJ Sufi, hey, feel free to butt in whenever you want to say something.
Oh, yes.
You want to sing something, even better. Let me get started off, right? And let's get straight into it. What we've done is, this is a very, very big opinion poll. We've asked a bunch of urban youth. This is an urban poll, actually, so it doesn't reflect what the rural youth might actually be thinking. But we've asked them a whole bunch of questions. Question number 1. We asked the people in this opinion poll, what was the most important task for a politician? Here were the results. Across the country, in all cities, 27% said control inflation, 15% said fight corruption, 12% said create employment, 11% said boost the economy. Incidentally, in the south, for some reason, only 7% said control inflation. So, for some reason, prices aren't rising in the south, or they're not that bothered about it, one or the other. But 27% saying control inflation, corruption coming in next. Does that surprise you?
In our opinion, inflation is one of the biggest issues. All the time you are talking about this corruption, inflation and misgovernance. So whatever your survey is saying, I think the inflation is one of the most important things.
Price rise? And is that something which therefore should be worrying the Congress Party, because prices are rising a lot? And if you look at any opinion polls that are being done about the adults, they all say inflation, price rise. Now, if the young are also saying it, perhaps you should be concerned.
I think as far as inflation goes, government is trying its level best to control it. Now seeing the economic situation worldwide, India is have to work very hard, and I think the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister, the whole party is trying to boost the economy.
Are you going to get prices down or not by the time the elections
Definitely
come?
It is going to get down with good
How many of you believe that prices will be down? Oh, there are some people who think prices are going to come down. Why do you think prices are coming down?
Government doesn't bring prices down considering the current situation. They'll be losing out in the elections. So this being the agenda of the elections and people actually disagreeing that the present government should not come into power once again because the prices are rising, they'll have to do it. So
you think they have to get prices down whether they like it or not?
And then they might actually end up doing it.
Governments can't always do what they want to do. So it's easier sometimes said than done. Shazia, corruption coming in at number 2. Does that surprise you, concern you? I mean, frankly, these are the guys you're going to go to.
No, I think food inflation is definitely a huge issue. People are really having a tough time dealing with the situation. Whether it's the middle classes, I'm not talking about the very poor alone. Even the upper middle class is really suffering. So whatever you look at, the prices are an all-time high. it is an issue. What we have done is we've linked corruption with inflation. So somewhere the dots are connected. Somewhere where the CAG accounting is not done, auditing is not done of certain companies, and they do exactly what they please. The prices go up for the consumers,
so
but there is a lot of profiteering.
To inflation.
Yes, so I think corruption contributes to inflation.
Priorities are a little odd because you should place in a country like India economic growth above inflation. When we don't have an equitable society, when there are issues of that our economy is not well distributed, inflation might be a concern for people who already have the resources. But if you don't have high growth, then the benefits of that growth will not be able to percolate down to the people who really need it.
Fine.
So for me, personally, I think growth should be number one.
And the previous RBI governor was sometimes accused of worrying about inflation and not worrying enough about growth. Ashish, let me get you in.
Yes.
Those priorities, would those be your priorities?
Not in that order, because one thing that I find missing from that survey is that a political leader and a political party that will work for a just and equitable society, that will work for national integration. And that's very important, because today in our country, away from a site, there are areas where we have, which have become tinder boxes of sectarian violence, communal violence, violence along regional and caste lines. And if we don't have a political leader who believes in the idea of India and work towards national integration, uplift the millions and millions who are languishing in absolute poverty, abject poverty, I think that's missing from this list. And that's very crucial for the future of the country.
That's missing in this list. But can I just ask you all in general here, how many of you would agree that behind a lot of this is just a question of good governance and good administration? How many of you believe that? It's really about getting good governance and good administration. Okay, so lots and lots of green. So most of you agree with that. So therefore, let me jump into the second question. So question number 2. Let's see if there's a difference from one state to the other. So we asked everybody on this panel, and this is of course a survey done by Hansa Research, which is the best administered state in India? And interesting findings, 34% of them said Gujarat, best administered state in India. 9% said Maharashtra. 5% said Goa and Andhra, so there was a dead heat there, but 34% saying Gujarat. And before I get some comments on that, we also asked people what makes an efficient state, what makes good administration. Number 1 on the list from the young was good law and order. That came right at the top. Employment opportunities was number 2. Good education was number 3. And while I'm on a roll, why don't I come to the next question that we asked people, which is the worst administered state in India, the worst administered state. And this, but perhaps a bit unfair given all that's been happening in the last 3 or 4 years there, but 23% said the worst administered state in India is Bihar. 9% said Uttar Pradesh, 6% said Andhra Pradesh. And as I said, given all that's been happening in the last few years, perhaps a bit unfair. All right, quick snap polling among all of you. How many of you agree that Gujarat is the best administered state in India? You don't agree. Why don't you agree?
When we go through that, HDI, Human Development Index, Gujarat ranks only 9th. Kerala is first, Gujarat is only 9th.
Okay.
We are talking about the development, education, and the sanitary and the health situation.
Okay,
and
fair enough. Let me ask, the majority of you said that you agree that Gujarat is the best administered. Who wants to say something on that?
I'll first of all give the credit of development of Gujarat to the government there. Because of his quick decisions, because of his administrative capability, and then of course the industries out there are something to be credited for the development, the infrastructure, and I will also say that Gujarat has got a talented bunch of people, and which even more helps, which aids into its development.
Okay, Sudhanshu, you want to add something to that?
As far as the performance of Gujarat is concerned, it's not your survey. Whether it was the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation in 2007 or whether it was the United States Congress Research Service paper in 2011, they have hailed the performance of Gujarat.